Hi, this is Sergeant Beast Larson. How far can people push corruption before you speak up? How much can you take, and how far are you willing to go as an individual, as an officer? As a police officer, there were things that happened. Officers did things, they got in trouble, got suspended. But you always trusted that the administration, the chief, the sheriff would take care of things. And they have meetings, FOP gets involved, that lawyers get involved, representatives, things happen behind closed doors. So it's not always public knowledge, but you trust that it gets taken care of. It didn't. It doesn't. I'll explain that in a minute. How far would you go? How far did I go? As a sergeant down in Georgia, corrections. Hays State Prison was just things were just happening. Female officers were being subject to strip search on suspicion only. No evidence, nothing found. I was a cert guy, when you come in for shift and the whole shift have a shakedown, catch officers run to the bathroom. That's when you do a strip search. You do a detailed search and a strip search if needed. But yeah, this one particular administrator ordered the strip search by a female sergeant lieutenant of 4 females, different days, different times. And it was, everybody's subject to search, but how he went about it, it was discrimination. It was sexual harassment. And there were things that led up to that they were chosen and asked and then strip search. Sexual harassment. There was harassment going on, a lot of harassment. There was punishment. You don't do what this person says, you end up in a tower. You say no, you get put in a tower. You're told that you're supposed to follow orders unless it's unlawful. You believe that it to be unjust, unlawful, or illegal. But yet, how come sergeants get put up in towers? The same person that put the hit on me at Hays Prison also was mad at me and put me in a tower for like 8-9 weeks in a row. Joke's on him. I was doing push-ups all day. Took a dumbbell. I was working out all day. And then I got promoted. He had to take me out. It got pushed to the point, and I was told as a sergeant in the tier by the GD leader and the blood and the Crip leader that a hit was put on me. They told me by who, and things were explained. I talked to the investigator, regional investigator. He confirmed all this. And what people didn't know there, my last 4 months approximate, I was working under cover and investigation. And I mentioned this in another video. I'm going to explain now how I stood up, and by standing up for officers and what was going on, left me and my family homeless. It was a fight. I never imagined we would be homeless, that it would turn out this way, but no regrets. And I love my wife. She stood by me during this time, during the last day, and stood by me when we were living out of our car and a hotel for about 3 months. So thank you to her for that. I love you, honey. What happened in the end, and them setting me up, them being the warden, who was not prosecuted for the things that could have been proven, that were proven, he was allowed to retire. And that's a mistake. That sends a bad message. A deputy warden happened to be at a prison and location. I'm going to be generic with this. 4 inmates were killed, and this is how it happened. Meth came in the mail. The mail person was paid off, officer, not to search that. It was a book. You know how it is. Take the book, cut out the middle, meth comes in. Here's what happened every time. Meth comes in to a white ghost-faced gangster who was close to being released. Time almost served. But it never went to him. It wasn't intercepted by the mail person. It came in, it was intercepted by somebody else. It was passed to that certain person by the mail person. It was arranged. Now, a black inmate from the mob, Money Over Bitches, was charged. They were both sent, the white Ghostface and the black mob, to 2 different prisons. I connected the dots because all 4 times when the white Ghostface was released, within a year they were murdered. This particular administrator happened to be at that exact prison. I'll leave it at that because further investigation is still going by Department of Justice. Not a coincidence. I connected dots. Being retired police and have completed investigations. Yeah. I made a formal complaint of harassment, sexual harassment, discrimination, criminal things that were happening by certain administrators. Like I had mentioned, I went to the state HR. 30 days later, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what you're talking about. You want to know what harassment is? How about when this certain person is there and influences the lieutenant that's supposed to be recruiting to get some young females, get a bunch of young females in. When these young females come in, this certain particular administrator, I won't say any names, he would, very arrogant, he would approach them, and if they denied his sexual favors, he would put them in a tower. He would punish them. Put a brand new female, stick them. Anybody knows anything about Hays State Prison, everybody knows C dorm is the blood dorm. C1, C2 are hard. Need experienced officers. Don't put a brand new female in there. And guess what he would do? He would make sure that female would get put in there. And then the verbal abuse would be terrible. The emotional, mental abuse would be terrible if they refused sexual advances on his part. He also thought it was pretty cool for him to go and have sexual relation. He was married, have sexual relation with counselors. Always texting, trying to get other female staff of any rank. POS. You know what that stands for. Piece of S word. Well, he was taken from, the captain chief of security position to another position where he could not have influence over recruiting and officers in this same manner. So I got set up, and it got to the point where I had the names, I had things lined up, and I was being accused of something, called in the warden's office on my last day. And I needed to find out one more piece of information. So, in G2 behind the glass, everything's recorded, the audio is really great. So the inmate said something, and I responded to him with a different kind of comment that nobody else would have made. So I got called in the warden's office and asked, did I make this comment? I said, I don't recall. I say stuff and talk trash all day. When you work in a tier like that and you supervise them, 200 plus inmates, in tier 2, you say stuff. Well, we said, oh, this is not. I said, well, I got a right to face my accuser and what I'm accused of. You got a video? Let me see the video. I don't have to show you. I said, oh, yes, you do. By law, you do. I said, I got a right to see that video. I want to see it right now. Okay, so he turned his laptop and brought me around, and he showed it to me, and I said, okay, I guess I said that. I said, that's not what a sergeant would normally say. I apologize. It won't happen again. And I just went on with it like that. And this was in May of 2019. And he said, well, I'm pretty sure I can get you fired for this. I'm going to suspend you with pay, or you have a right to resign. And he explained something. I said, well, that's kind of odd. There is a process here of discipline, verbal, written, you go through all the way through the steps of all that. You're skipping some steps. Oh, no, there's that. We got documented stuff. I said, you don't have documented anything. They've been trying to set me up. This is why they had inmates trying to attack me. 3 inmates tried to stab me, feigning is the word, feigning hanging. They pretend to be hanging. When you go in there, hands behind the back, got the little sheet up here, it's not real tight, off the top of the bedpost. They come out with a weapon, try and stab you. I've had 5 friends stabbed in Georgia. 5 officers stabbed in Georgia, one of them really bad, Officer McGill, 13 times in the head and neck. You know, I taught self-defense and fighting. I blocked it. You know, there was a physical altercation. I won. They lost. They ended up in the hospital. I ended up with nothing, not a scratch. And Internal Affairs cleared me every single time. My last use of force, I made a video, talked about it. Inmate with 2 weapons, had the fan motor taped in his hand, and then he used a handcuff when he jerked loose. So he's got a fan motor in one hand and a handcuff swinging the ratchet with the other. Well, I hit him in the head a bunch, ended up with Internal Affairs, and they thanked me, on behalf of Commissioner and Governor, thanked me for protecting everybody. And I didn't kill him, didn't hurt him, he just had to have some stitches in his head. He went to ICU because he was high on meth. Nothing that I did. I was careful what I did. So they had him to do that, to try to get me, because he had 2 officers cornered in Y building, at lockdown at night, and knew that they put the call on the radio, and he knew I was working sergeant at tier 2, and I would run up there with a couple guys, and I would deal with it. Yeah, I dealt with it. I dealt with it legally and professionally. Solved the problem. Yep, that was the last time that they tried to do that. So when they couldn't get me hurt and get me killed, they tried to go administratively. They tried to use the paper and the pen. So in this last meeting with the warden, 2 deputy wardens, unit manager, and a captain, and me. And I asked to have my shift supervisor present. Oh no, we need to start the meeting now. And this is before, it was evening shift, 6 p.m., 6 a.m. My lieutenant would have been there. And I got there early as a sergeant, but they didn't try. I said, well, call him on a cell. We got time, we can wait. No, we need to get home. So they would refuse to wait. That was their mistake. So they tell me this, they're going to do that. And I said, well, let me go out here in the hallway. Let me go think about it. I said, I'm going to take unit manager with me because he's the only one in this room that's not corrupt. So everybody's eyes get really big looking. I said, you heard what I said. So I get up and I said, unit manager, I won't say his last name, will you accompany me to the hallway? I'm going to take 5 minutes and think about my next move. So he got up and walked out there, and I looked at him and I said, look, you're the only person in this room that I have not been investigating for the last 4 months. I said, you and I've tested you, you've tested me, you've taught me, you've made me learn more than I would have under somebody else's command. Thank you, and I respect you for that. I said, I'll tell you this now. I said, I'm going to resign. I'm going to walk out the door, and when I get out the door, I'm going to call the special agent I've been working for. I said, and his boss knows what's going on, this whole thing. I said, and I put in for the investigator spot, which I was going to get because I'm retired police. Nobody would have taken that. I also put in for the lieutenant spot. And they were scared for me to have either position because I would expose the corruption there at Hays State Prison. And he's like, I didn't know any of this. I said, nobody does. I said, one officer knows what's going on. I said, nope. I said, there is a secret that's been kept, believe it or not. So I said, I'm going to resign. I said, I know they're going to want my ID, my shirt, my badge. So I took off my shirt, had my badge, my ID, gave them everything. And then I forget what was in the car. I needed to go out to the car. He had to follow me, walk out with me to get to him. Some piece of equipment or something. I don't remember what it was. I said, let's go back in. I'm going to inform them. I'm going to give him the warden a statement, and then you'll walk out with me. He said, okay. So we walked back in. I got my t-shirt on. I laid my shirt down. I said, I'm going to resign. I said, but hear this, and here's a promise. This is not the last you've heard of me. And they thought I'm just joking. They thought I'm just saying stuff like I'm just trying to call a bluff or whatever. Walk out the door. So made my phone call, everything, told my wife. She wasn't surprised. She was upset, but not surprised. So the next day I type up like 14-page document, email it to the HR secretary, call. Yeah, I got the email. I'll give it to the director. Week goes by, nothing. 2 weeks go by. Can I talk to the director? No, the director's not here. Commissioner's not here. Nobody would talk to me. Nobody would talk to me for a month. So finally I contact somebody in special ops, high up. That was a friend, a trustworthy person. I said, I need to email something to you. I said, this went to the HR a month ago. I said, this is what's been happening, this investigation. I explained stuff, sent it. He said, I'll open this internal affairs myself. So it's somebody that's pretty high up. So we did. Guess what? Next day, first thing in the morning, like 8:31, my phone's ringing. Hi, this is so-and-so from Internal Affairs. We want to meet you. We need to have different discussions, different agents, things need to investigate. The criminal will be separate than, the hostile work environment, harassment, sexual harassment, stuff like that. Are you available? I can be up there in an hour and a half. I can meet at McDonald's. Yes, sir, I can. So I go and meet and talk. We talk for hours on record. He said, so-and-so, whatever. Can you meet him tomorrow? Yes, I can. So I meet so-and-so tomorrow. Different location, different. Meet so-and-so, we talk. Everything's recorded. Talking about the details, my notes, my proof. Okay. And 2 days go by, get another phone call, get another interview. Doing all this. Okay, so I've had 3 interviews. He said, okay, I've talked to the other investigators and all. Here's this. What are your intentions? Where is it going to go from here? I said, well, it's going to go federal as well. Okay, we just want to know. This is state level stuff, but some of these things, these allegations you're making are federal. This harassment is sexual harassment. There are federal violations. I said, yes, I'm going to make federal violation. So I did. I went to the FBI, put everything out, laid everything out. It takes a little bit of time. Department of Justice shows up. I had some information I outlined. The 2 officers that were killed in the bus where the inmates, one was a Ghostface, one was AB, Aryan Brotherhood, got the officer's gun, shot both of them. I had information about that. I had information about one of the Ghostface guys that was at our prison that was connected to this certain administrator. And, funny thing is, when you go search an inmate and you collect a little baggie of meth and you put it in the evidence room, it's supposed to get put out into the bunker and get sent away. It didn't. And the same evidence bag showed up 4 or 5 times. And I told the search sergeant, I was on the search team then, I was like, man, it's the same evidence bag. I've recovered this more than once. I don't know what to tell you. We just log it in, we do our thing. Lieutenant, whatever. I said, I got you, Sergeant, we'll log it in. Took a magic marker and put a little dot indiscretionally in a corner. Guess what? About 2 days later, I found it again. All connected to Ghostface and this head Ghostface dude. I won't mention his name. Last name starts with a B. Well, he ends up on a mental health thing down at the same prison where this bus come out of, and he connected with another guy, and another guy connected, and these 2 ended up being the not the guy B, but the Ghostface and the AB end up on that bus doing this and kill and execute these 2. And coincidentally, recently, early this year in 2024, that warden was arrested on federal charges of corruption. Imagine that. Gee, I said that back in 5 years ago and talked about Smith State Prison and the corruption down there. So I end up, some people get arrested, lieutenant gets arrested, a sergeant that had left got arrested at a county he was working at. Lieutenant ends up with federal charges. 20 years ends up 3 years to serve. A lot of snitching got done. A lot of things came out from my investigation, opened the door. Yeah, I stood up. And represented the 4 females, had their name, their attorneys' names, everything, the details about their illegal strip search out of sexual harassment and the fact that they were approached by this same person in administration wanting sexual favors. Yeah, I had that in detail. Had a lot of other harassment names and stuff in detail. How I was the only sergeant that would be a sergeant and be stuck in a tower. Imagine that. Joke's on you. So anyhow, I end up being homeless. Let's tell you how this works. See, in Georgia, if you have a lease, we were renting a house, you have a lease and the lease is up, they don't have to renew the lease and they can do whatever they want. Well, our year happened to be up at the end of that June, or in June 1st, and he said, I'm renting to somebody else. He ended up selling the house a year later, but we had to up and move. Had another house lined up. Oh no, you can't go because there's now an eviction on here. We're not going to take you. So he legally evicted us so we could rent to somebody else that was his friend. Instead of just telling us and asking us, he had to go the eviction way and put it on our record. We're like, okay, well, we'll do this. Our daughter's down there. We'll stay with her. We had some pets a couple days. Looked at a few places. It didn't work out. All of a sudden, his eviction thing was just started to haunt us. And all of a sudden, we're like, well, we got to get a hotel. We can't stay here with our pets. And the big dog at her apartment and her kids, the manager's like, no, I can't have you stay there. A couple days was fine. So we're in a hotel a couple days. Got no income now, other than my police retirement. We end up staying in the hotel a little bit and for food, and end up having to stay in the car to save hotel money. And then we end up living in our SUV. And here I got 2 teenagers. My wife and I, 2 teenagers and dogs in the back. Everything put in storage from a house. And all of a sudden it got crazy. And then here goes all of June. And we're in a rest area. I'm in Georgia in a rest area, 103 degrees, trying to walk dogs and look for a place to live. It got crazy. June goes by, July goes by, August is going by, and here we are, still in a hotel. No place to live, no job. And they blackballed me because they call there. And legally, all they can say is, I worked at the prison from this date to this date. And I did leave on my own. They didn't fire me, so they can't say anything. But got blackballed. I went to the sheriff's office, went through a whole hiring process that takes a couple months. I did it all in a week. Interviews, polygraphs, psychological, physical evaluations, doctor evaluations, everything. I was doing something every day, Monday through Friday, final interview with the sheriff. And then all of a sudden, they don't want to call me back, and they just like ghost me. And then I run into somebody, and they're like, oh no, somebody at Hayes Prison said that you this, and you made a complaint about corruption, and gee, you get scared. Well, everybody down in town said that the sheriff's department that I was going to, that sheriff was corrupt. Guess they got scared. Here's the point of all this. I know I talked 22 minutes. I hope you're still with me. The beast didn't back down to corruption when they act like this. They treated people like garbage at the prison. The state was treating people like garbage, and I stood up to them. Department of Justice came in, started cleaning the house, started arresting wardens and lots more staff members than just tax squad was finding. I stood up to it, ended up 3 months living in a car, living in a hotel. We finally decided to move out of state, go a different place, fresh start. My dad had helped me financially and a lot of prayers. And I got through this with prayers and with faith. Faith that it was going to work out. I've been a Christian my whole life. My dad was a preacher his whole life. Still into the Bible. I knew God would take care of us. My wife did. Strongest woman of faith that I've ever met. She is like going to be a legend when she gets elderly. She's legendary. We go back home, move in with family, except for me because of the big dog. We couldn't have it in the house. She's staying with her family, and me and the big dog, little dog, we lived in a rest area for a month. So I spent a month sleeping in the rest area in my car. I had guns. I wasn't scared. I was a beast. Car, SUV full of weapons, and a huge dog with teeth that would eat people. Very friendly dog, but kept hunting, house hunting, and all of a sudden, going through a process for a job with an old friend I work with in police. This job was locked in, already going through everything, just doing my physical. I did a non-CDL driving position at the airport. It was going through, and then Marketplace shows up a house. I'm with my wife. We went to check something out. She sees it, calls, and God answered prayer, and bam, there it is. He's like, well, I've had 25 people in a few minutes. You're on here right now. You're the first one to call me. I haven't seen it. I'll meet you there. Yes, please, we'll go meet you there. Turns out he was a Navy guy. He knows guys that I knew from police. Many friends in common. He was like, I like you. And well, we like you too. Bam, here we are. I said, we'll get in here. We'll fix stuff up. We'll clean it up. Clean. We'll paint everything. He said, okay. Worked out a deal. Didn't charge me a whole lot of deposit or anything for I spent a week working in here. Dad and I got some great time to bond and repainted the whole house, ceilings, everything. Had a great time, he and I. My wife and family were teenagers taken care of, and God took care of us. You know, I was never afraid to stand up and fight, because I knew I was never alone. My whole life journey has been with God. I've been with my wife 30 years now. Now, this happened in 2019, 5 years ago. 25 years we've been together. Didn't get to have a big 25th anniversary because of COVID. Went through this homeless stuff and then COVID right after. She said, that's okay. We'll do it another day. We'll find another time, another trip. We'll plan something. We're together. We're alive and we're together. Because, by the way, we both almost died in December of 2020 of COVID, the SARS-2. Great woman. Yep, I stood up for people. I fought the system. I fought corruption, and ended up in Georgia in the summer heat, spending 3 months in a vehicle in a parking lot with my family and in a hotel. Great people at the hotel. They were very, very generous, open, you know, charging me a good price, giving me a discount to help me out. They knew what was going on. They knew I was trying really hard to get a job and a place to live for us. It was just tough. It was tough. No regrets. I did help people at Hays State Prison. I helped about 25 of them see the light and left right after I left. I helped people to say, hey, this isn't for me. This job isn't for me. I stood up. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me and everybody else. Not as an individual, not as a supervisor, not as a senior person, somebody with experience, you know. I was just, you know, a little past 50 when this happened. No. Stand up for people. I stood up for my rights and their rights. Fight it, fight it, fight it. I made a video talking about homelessness and corrections. I just didn't mention that it affected me. I said it affects a lot of people. It happens to a lot of people. It happened to me. It happened to the beast. Now I'm going to make a video next month. I'm going to make a video next month. And I'm going to tell you how I went from homeless to entering politics to make a change. Because what we always learn from our lessons, right? We learn from history. We learn from what's going on. So I took this corruption, I took these problems, and I found a way to try and fix it. And I spent 2 years fighting to get into the political world. And I got a great video to tell you about me getting into politics. But I have to wait till after May 21st, because a part of this political journey, I worked for a governor candidate. And the things that I'm going to say, he'll turn around and sue me because he's running for Congress right now. So I have to wait till after May 21st and he loses in the primary. Then he won't sue me for stuff and say I cost him the election. So May 22nd, that video will drop. I will post it. I will let you know. From homeless to politics. That's going to be an eye-opener. Just wait. Thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you appreciate. Hope you fight. I know there's a lot of people that make comments and that there are things happening that they don't like. There's mistreatment of officers. There's neglect. There's an abandonment. Officers being assaulted and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Well, in May of 2019 at Hays State Prison in Georgia, I stood up and fought for everybody under the administration. From the sergeants below, I stood up and fought for us. I can't fight for everybody at every place, but I fought for those at Hays. Good luck to you. Fight. If you can't fight, if it's fight that you're going to never win. I tell people sometimes, hey, you got to have peace in your mind and your heart. There are occasions where it is better to leave a job than to stay there and become miserable and let it just debilitate you. Sometimes the best decision is to part ways with corrections. But that's up to you. That's your situation. You know it. You know it better than anybody else. Talk to you soon. I'm going to have a great video also coming up soon. I'm going to talk about, it's like a part 2. I've talked about controlling your emotions. But I'm going to talk about how in law enforcement, police, and corrections, and that how easy it is to lose yourself, lose your emotion. You're going to want to hear what I got to say because I've seen a lot of death. I've been around death. You know, I wrote a book about why people kill. I've seen a lot of the killing, the death. And I'm going to tell you, it's really affected me. My wife tells me there's certain things that I'm just so cold. But luckily, after being done and being retired, I've got some emotion back in my life that I had lost for many years. You're going to like that story. See you soon.